This is a review of Survivor Season 47, Episode 11, Flipping the Win Switch. We have a full recap ahead. I have with me, as always, Richie Becerra. Here on Episode 11, we're going to recap the entire episode. We are going to do Survivor stock up, stock down, which Castaway stock is up, which Castaway stock is down. We'll do a Survivor press conference. What questions will we ask Castaways or Jeff if we could right away? We're also going to rename the episode and decide who goes home next, but a bit of housekeeping. I got my first win of the season, predicting the correct winner. Kyle, what do you got? What do you have in Richie for this shot?
This is some sort of Tennessee whiskey cider.
Ooh.
So they were sampling it at Total Wine the other weekend, and so I bought a bottle because it was like $10. It's actually decent, perfect for this kind of weather. Open the window, have a little glass of this.
December 1st.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking this though in honor of Surviving Barstool coming back this week. Who would you say would be your top 3 to 5, no order, Barstool characters?
3 to 5 Barstool characters. I guess when you're talking Surviving Barstool, there are a couple that come to mind. Of course, there's Rico Bosco. There's you got Tommy rocking it over there. Will Compton, who is a previous winner, I guess you can say. So is Tommy, right? Those are the two winners before going into this. Kirk Minahan, I mean, is the reason that they have to go to Rumble. So you can't forget him. I don't think Stu Finer's in it.
I don't think so.
Stu is my favorite Barstool person. But if I was to say 3, it's probably Fights, Minahan, and Compton are probably the 3 to kind of look out for. I mean, to be honest, like I just know them. I haven't watched any Surviving Barstool. You're the like, are they doing it? Is it behind a paywall too at first or no?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, like you have to pay for it, or no? It's just they release.
Oh,
it?
No, not this year. No.
Oh, nice. Yeah. They'll just release it. I saw the schedule. The schedule looks intense, and it seems like they're putting more and more time into it, which only makes it better. So, and no leaks have come out. You haven't heard any leaks? I feel like that was an
nothing
issue
yet, which is good. Yeah.
Their NDAs aren't quite as tough as I know. Oh, there's one leak that Dave said that Mince was filling in for Brianna Chicken Fry, and that was something he leaked on the Unnamed show. I did hear that. All right. Well, Surviving Barstool's coming up, but Real Survivor winding down. Only a couple episodes left. In the final 8 here, I believe, which is pretty insane.
It seems weird that there's only 2 episodes left, and there's still so many people too.
Yeah. There's a lot. Maybe there's 3 episodes left. No, that can't be right.
I think there's 2. I mean, there's got to be at least 2 people going home every week, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Then they get down.
Or at least 2 people that like this week.
Yeah, they need to kind of get down to 5 or 6 by next week, which maybe there is a kind of twist ahead. But we'll get into it. Kyle goes home to start the recap. We're coming back from Tribal where Gabe was voted out. Sue was the only one left out of the vote there. Really, again, a pretty much unanimous vote. We come back, and there really isn't too much like post-Tribal. She, of course, is still angry with Kyle, still has a vendetta for Kyle, which got to be a little satisfying here. The next day is day 19, and this is where Caroline's actually trying to mend that fence that was broken with Sue. And this is actually a really good conversation we hear Caroline and Sue have, because Caroline makes a pretty big statement because, I mean, to this point, Caroline's kind of just gone along with a lot of votes. And she said, like, I would rather go home earlier playing my game than making it to the end being carried. I think it's a really self-aware thing. I don't know if she realized that she was kind of being carried, or maybe just realized, wait, I haven't dictated any votes. We saw her get frustrated with Genevieve that one scene that was really good where she's like, dang it, Genevieve, like I wanted to make that move. And I mean, if you're Sue, I mean, ultimately it works on Sue. This, like, Sue takes it well and is like, I get it. This is the move you're trying to make. And makes Caroline seem to mend that fence pretty well. Good move by Caroline, but also, like, I don't know if you get that much credit for doing the Gabe vote. I guess you do go against yourself and you win a Tribal. I guess.
I mean, it wasn't really her move though. Like it's not
Yeah.
like she's the one that started it and dictated it.
Yeah.
So I do get what she's saying, and I like that she said she wants to play her own game. But at the same time, I still don't feel like she really has played her own game yet. I
Right.
feel like she mostly voted him out because she didn't want to be on the wrong side of the votes.
True. And if she did vote with Sue and Gabe, like it still would not have mattered. And so yeah, you were
Yeah.
it was more Caroline was jumping to a side to be on the right side rather than yeah, it being a move. Then we see this kind of underdog alliance brewing, leaving out Sam, Kyle, and Genevieve, who seem to be the three big dogs they kind of mark at the beginning of this episode. That those three are the next three.
Which I
Is
think is funny because like Sam really hasn't done much this
right,
game.
right. And
I
once
mean,
you
he's won no challenges. He does have. I feel like he has a good like relationship with everybody. So maybe personally, he's a big threat. But
yeah, you would think that Sam would be in the same place as like a teeny that like
hmm
teeny lost Saul, like a really close person, just like Sam lost Sierra. And now Sam is, yeah, kind of on his own. Andy is clearly this free agent that is running to make moves with everyone. So, yeah, it's like Sam is kind of this non threat because also hasn't really showed up in the challenges, has maybe had bad teammates, but hasn't ever shown that, he's the target, which is kind of wild. Sam, Kyle, and Genevieve are pretty aware of their that they are targets, and then we kind of get a scene with Genevieve where she kind of seems rattled a little bit here, where she is feeling bad about blindsiding Teeny, and she has an interesting quote too that says, "I would rather be a villain that people can't connect to than a best friend that killed their friend's dream."
yeah,
Which is like just clearly showing that like, oh man, you're late in the game and the gameplay is getting to you because you've created such big bonds here. And they show that Kishan blind side of him being like, I trusted you. And
yeah,
it's kind of it's a thing that's like I think harder to relate to from the couch. But do you
hmm
see that like you being out there? I mean, you've gone to summer camps and stuff where you spend lots of times with people, and
yeah. That's true.
like it is hard. Like that's something that probably only happens when you're out there. But do you see yourself get like being able to separate? Because we see Kyle, it messes with his head a little bit too, where he's like, I'm feeling bad now, and I'm not the guy that my family knows me to be. Do you think you would have that at all, or you'd be like Russell?
No, I didn't know. I don't think I'd have that one bit. And I get what you're saying about like going to summer camp and everything, but I'm not playing for $1 million at summer camp.
Right.
Like when $1 million is on the line, that's going to change my life like more than a one relationship with this one person. I mean, if we're
Yeah.
being honest.
Yeah, and you got to be able to like that. That shows a little. So like, I think Genevieve showed a lot of cracks in this episode, and that was one part where I was like, "Ooh, wow!" Like we've kind of held and seen everyone talk about Stone Cold, like Genevieve being the Stone Cold killer, but yeah, showing a bit of cracks there too. Kyle,
hmm
who was just kind of being Kyle's personality here of being like, "Oh, I was." Upset that I was on the wrong side of the Gabe vote, but I hope my family still loves me. And it's like, dude, and he
That
was
was a
even
great Kyle voice.
yeah, and Andy's like, bro, I think everyone knows when you're watching this game, everyone's playing the game. Like,
hmm
when you're being malicious or mean or whatever, and that just like really doesn't exist um, anymore. So like, other than it sounds like people just in confessionals.
hmm
And then we get to the journey. A boat approaches, and we're at this point in the game where you're at like the final eight or whatever. Like, are you shocked that people don't want to go? I get the idea of like I've already been, so I'm out. But like anytime there's a
Yeah.
journey, man, I'm going.
hmm
Right? Am I
I
crazy or
get,
are you there?
yeah, I mean, no, I think I would for sure want to go. And I get maybe there's more hesitation from them, like they don't want to lose their vote, especially if you have, like, say, that five-person alliance, one or two people loses their votes. Now you don't have the numbers anymore. So I kind of get that. But yeah, I think you always got to try to go and get whatever type of advantage, especially with this few numbers in the game.
Yeah, and Rachel ends up being the one who goes, but even Rachel's reasoning is like, well, I don't want Sam or Genevieve to go. Um,
hmm
but I mean, huge, amazing journey for Rachel, because one, it's a journey that no one's ever seen before, including like tribe mates back at camp,
hmm
and so she gets taken out to this barge. They call it. They called it that um on the podcast too, but it was really just like this floating platform where we get this really epic individual challenge where there is these balls and you have to get them all the same color, and you got these giant weights that are being tossed overboard. So they talked about it on the podcast, being that like the way when they were designing this, they were saying that like a sand timer is a really good timer, but it's not as intense as like
Hmm.
a timer should be. And so this
Yeah,
really innovative timer worked so well. And they said
it was cool
they
for
tried it a
sure.
bunch of times. Yeah, what'd you make of this? And gosh,
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, just the fact too that like she was in the middle of the ocean, like nothing around. She wasn't on a beach somewhere. She wasn't in the forest somewhere. Like she's just on a floating platform in the middle of the ocean. And dude, when she like knocked the first anchor in and it started going down, it was going down quick. I was
it's
shocked at how fast that was going down. Like it got to that like 25%, like real quick, and I was like, oh man, she might not get this.
yeah, and they had all like the shots were just lined up perfectly where you could still see it
Hmm.
rattling and moving slow, but then also like you understand that how the challenge probably works, and it seems it's weird that she was kind of behind it, like she couldn't stand in front of it. But the timing of her actually getting all the balls the same color and the same like to pull out the advantage and like seconds later it goes flying off
Yeah.
was just like perfectly scripted.
Hmm.
10 out of 10, great new kind of challenge. But you get a block of vote. Do you feel in a block of vote that only is good for I guess technically 3 more tribals until you're at final 6? Do you think like block of I don't know, like I don't know why, but block of vote just isn't as it's kind of anticlimactic, or do you think that's a good a good advantage this late in the game?
I think this late in the game, it's actually really good because I think, especially if you have these five people or whatever, before that, if you want to get one of them out and make a big move, you can block one of them and then you take the other two people and you swing things so quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I see that. It's definitely one where it like opens up a door for you to make a move, but you kind of have to do work with it to make sure
Hmm.
like yeah, someone is totally blindsided by it. And yeah, like yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays out. And like they were talking about, and I haven't seen um that season, but they were talking about on the podcast the Game Changer season when it was
Hmm.
I think they called it Advantage Mageddon or something like that, where everyone had an advantage and Suri was left out of it. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Like they were talking about like if they were worried about that, where so many advantages are in the game that like are you worried that eventually there will be a tribal where just one person votes and they would decide who goes home? And Jeff's like
Yeah.
that totally is in play, and that's kind of what they were hoping for with Game Changers. But here it also just feels like there are still so many advantages. With Rachel has an idol, she has a block of vote, and Sue has an idol. Um,
Yeah.
and then the next episode they were teasing, it looked like Genevieve was building a fake idol, and Sam has again. I
Has
remember that he has an
he
idol.
still has his,
His
yeah.
fake is was one tribal idol. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it'll be interesting how that all plays out. I couldn't go to a better person. I love that Rachel did this. She comes back and she does lie, except for telling Sue and Caroline, which kind of turns to Caroline again, where you get another really good bar where she says, "I want Rachel to raise her threat level because someone who's a threat now becomes a shield later."
Hmm.
Ooh man, Caroline cooking with gas.
That is, but at the same time, like you're getting down to it. Like you don't want to shield them too much more at this part because you get
Yeah.
to that final three, and if that shield is still there, that shield's winning the game.
Yeah, no, yeah, a shield could quickly turn to just the right person who deserves to win it all.
Hmm.
And yeah, you got to be careful. Like that's why, and I mean, we can get to the vote in a little bit, but it's this was a crucial voting time. Especially it seemed like a very shield voting, uh, shield voting like motivation.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then we kind of see a little bit of alliances play out. It seems like Rachel is good with everyone. That's what I see. And Genevieve pitches
Oh
to
yeah.
Rachel with Andy. But like, yeah, it's crazy. Like Rachel's cool with Andy, but also, Rachel's cool with Caroline and Sue. And it's yeah, I think Rachel's just in a fantastic spot. Anything before the immunity challenge? Or is that I mean,
No, I think
no.
that yeah, I think that's all I had.
All right, so we get to the immunity challenge, which is the immunity block challenge, I guess we could say, where they balance it and they walk back with the rope. This is a pretty classic. How do you feel about this challenge? Do you like it? Do you think
I
you'd
like
be?
this one. This is a tough one for sure, and
Do
I
you?
think it's all about finding that sweet spot of going
Yeah,
the right speed, not too fast, not too slow.
yeah.
It looked like, I mean, I saw some pictures. I'm sure you saw them and stuff about one of Rachel's letters possibly being the wrong way.
I did see that. That is interesting. And
Yeah.
they did not talk about it on the podcast. I saw that happened like days later, so
Hmm.
maybe they didn't even catch it. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Like that kind of feels like something that where if when there were like spelling rewards, if like your S was upside down, they probably
Yeah.
would have called you on it.
Hmm.
And didn't happen here. But yeah, through a pretty long. This is a challenge actually that probably could have gone very long because to me feels like I was getting frustrated with just like, oh man, the patience when you're already
Hmm.
starving, when you're on day, 19 or 20 or whatever. Like, and yeah, those ropes seemed so heavy and that walk seemed way farther away. Really tough challenge. But again, another massive W for Rachel in this episode.
Yeah.
Not that maybe she needed it was clear that Kyle really needed this immunity.
Hmm.
But again, if Kyle wins another one, then it's just like it was a lose-lose situation for Kyle in a way. Actually,
Hmm.
no, there's a win-lose. I guess you could have stayed in the game.
Yeah.
Rachel wins, and yeah, we got to get back to camp, and it feels I felt like it was Kyle was the most obvious, and maybe they were just doing
Hmm.
filler in between. They were just trying to fill it up. It was an obvious vote. Um, the only wrinkle we get in this scrambling really is that I mean Genevieve wants to keep Kyle, but that's because Genevieve wants a shield, and then Andy brings up his probability that like what do you make of this? You're a doctor. Does this make any sense to you? Because
No, it makes no sense whatsoever,
no,
dude.
yeah, I was like, this feels like filler. I'm like, this doesn't. There's no way that's
Like
real. It adds to
for
his
him winning
personality.
a challenge, like you got to add in all the different factors of how good he's been in all the other challenges.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
mean, 6%. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, Jay, the producer of the Survivor podcast, was like, "Well, what's the percentage that he won as many as he already has now? Like, if we went back in time, like for him to win 4 or 5 or how
Hmm.
many he did, that percentage would have been probably even lower than what you're saying, but he still did it. So, like,
Yeah.
you can't think of that anyway. Um, but
Hmm.
pretty funny. I think it just adds to Andy's personality. We get to tribal. Genevieve kind of is clearly worried but Kyle's really doing all he can. And I mean, I want to ask you this is that like Kyle talks about this, like, dude, does everyone want to play Survivor, do a crowd pleasing moment? Or like, do you want to go home? Is like, if you're in Kyle's position that you've won that many immunity challenges, what what is your move to make people not pick you? Because like you have to either just say, yeah, I mean, he did all he could. He's like, there have been people who make it to the end and they don't win it all.
Yeah. And that's the only thing and I feel like he was almost too little too late. Like, he wasn't doing that at camp, or at least they didn't show it.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't really show him try anything at camp, really.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, sort of like, I guess him and Genevieve had a little conversation with Teeny, with
Yeah.
Sam, but like, she shut that down real quick. So,
Yeah. Yeah. There was like one moment where I think Caroline said he looks sad. He doesn't have an idol.
hmm.
And it's like, okay. So then he wasn't giving anything. Um, but yeah, it seemed obvious and it just seems like, dude, there really isn't anything you can do. And maybe that's a weird
Hmm.
crack in Survivor too, that like, yeah, you really like it doesn't help you to be amazing at challenges. It doesn't. Like
Yeah.
it will to an extent. If you're too good, that's a problem. And that like in any other sport or game or whatever, if you're the best at a game or a portion of it, usually that can help you. But yeah, it ultimately comes down to Kyle. It looks I saw Andy threw a vote at Teeny. That must have been something we didn't see
Yeah, that was
about
weird.
maybe if he plays an idol, let's have another name out there. Um,
I wonder
but
if he did it too, just to kind of like throw things like crazy and make
yeah,
it seem like one of the other people voted for her.
yeah, or no, I think it was dude. I guess I can't say, but I think it was Kyle who wrote down Teeny's name because I was watching it and he like shrugged his shoulders and was just like Teeny, I guess. But I
Yeah.
think Andy wrote down Genevieve because Andy really was convinced and was like, it's
Mm.
not Kyle. And he gets voted out. He gives everyone a hug. He gives Jeff a hug. Um, yeah, I don't know. Was Kyle the right move? And do you have any last words for Kyle?
I think it was the right move for sure. I mean, I think because he had such a feel good story or whatever too, if he gets to the end, it'd be tough, I think, in this era to not pick him to win for
Yeah,
these types of people. But also, I mean, I'm glad he went home. Especially the way he went home, he didn't deserve to win.
Yeah.
It was too soft.
Yeah, yeah. What do you make all the hugs, all the and him just from
I
everyone you
get being
tell.
like a good sport, whatever, but like you should have a little bit of like you should be pissed off a little bit more than that, man.
Yeah,
You could say good game and still be like pretty pissed, but you don't got to go give everybody like a hug right away.
yeah. And while Kyle was a challenge, he kind of seemed like because of that, like he did kind of seem like old Survivor in that he was just one of those that Southern boy character who was just too nice for this game,
Mm,
who like kind of didn't get that you have to
yeah.
play a little devious and a little mean and like really make. He didn't make any social moves. All social moves happened to him. That were
Hmm.
around him of him being nice to Rome or whatnot, and like that all came out because of Saul and whatnot. Like if Saul didn't say anything back to the Rome vote, it
Yeah.
probably would have been Kyle. And yeah, he was a funny guy. I don't think I would think I would rather have a bunch of people other than Kyle back.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's cool that he won challenges and kind of nice. And he'll probably also disappear. And we won't ever see him in the Survivor world again. And
Oh,
just
for
this
sure.
like, yeah, he just I don't know. He doesn't really have that reality star or like I don't know, being combative or whatnot. All right. Anything else or Survivor press conference?
I think we go to the press
All right,
conference.
let's go to the press conference. You got any questions for Jeff or Forecast?
My question, I think I would want to ask Sam and just ask him at this point in the game right now, what do you do? Like,
Yeah.
what is your game strategy going forward? Because you're in a tough spot right now, man.
Yeah, I mean, Sam said it really well. He's like, when everyone who's looking at Kyle will be looking at Sam once this is done. And so, yeah, I mean, definitely. And it kind of gives Sam this like back against the wall energy that could make him really dangerous and make him make a run at the end here because,
Hmm.
yeah, with this kind of final stretch, you could you could see Sam making a run here too because he doesn't have any allies, or it could just be the
Hmm.
obvious Genevieve Sam next. Yeah, it's hard to say. Um, I have a question for Jeff, and I want to know if he is watching any other shows for challenge inspiration.
Mm.
Because I mean, he kind of brags a lot on the podcast. He's like, every other reality show steals from us, and we try not to watch anything else and whatnot. But I wonder if he really does to get any inspiration, or if he has that creativity thing of I don't want to see anything else. I just want us to organically come up with
Yeah.
stuff. Because I mean,
Hmm.
I've heard that like the Squid Game reality show has a really good challenges, and like a lot of these other shows, do big, interesting twist to challenges. And Survivor is obviously dynamite at it. But it was just cool to see them like evolve and do something brand new that was like a total hit. Like I can't wait to see them try that again. Um, and probably even in a bigger way or even with challenges or something. Because it's crazy too that
Hmm.
these journeys, like this was the first time all the survivors saw that. Like they only had heard about it from
Yeah.
Rachel. And so for everyone else other than Rachel, it was like just as exciting. So I thought that was the coolest moment of the episode. And so yeah, I was curious about that. Let's go to stock up, stock down. Who do you got for stock up?
Stuck up. I mean, I went with Rachel. She kind of dominated the episode. She got
Yeah.
another advantage. She won
Yeah.
immunity. I mean, I think she's putting herself in a very good spot right now to be able to win this game if she plays all her cards and advantages right.
Yeah, like I feel like they've said her name before, but no one's really saying her name right now too. And
Hmm.
so she's my stock up as well because she had such a huge episode and it feels like no one there really knew it. Like yeah, she won immunity, but
Hmm.
I think a lot of people probably shrugged that off too and are not like, "Oh no, Rachel's going to win out." It's like, "Nah, you don't necessarily think that from Rachel." But she could with enough if it's a lot of these patience or endurance challenges. I mean, now especially with Kyle gone, that's the best part about when a challenge
Hmm.
beast leaves is now it's like, ooh,
Fair
the
game.
field is open. Yeah. Who do you have for stock down?
Stock Donovan with Genevieve. I mean, she went from one of the top players to she has nobody on her side right now. She seems like the easy choice next if that group of five sticks together.
Yeah.
So I think Genevieve's stock is plummeted after this episode.
Plummeted. Ooh, that's interesting. So it's not maybe buy while it's low. I'm also with Genevieve there
Yeah.
too. I think there was just a lot of cracks this episode. Even at immunity or at tribal council, Jeff was like, um, look, you don't seem like your energy's all there. And she was so nervous, and the votes really didn't go
Mm-hmm.
her way at all, except for the one Andy threw out there. So, yeah, I went with Genevieve, too. Feels like less of a still feels like, I mean, Genevieve could be next to go, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right, let's rename the episode. The episode was titled Flipping the Wind Switch. Pretty good one. I like that title. It's decent. What do you got? How would you rename
I
it?
went I went with I'm not doing that, which is like when Genevieve and Sam were trying to talk to Teeny about voting somebody else out. And I
Mm,
mean, she immediately shut that down. She's like, I'm not doing that. And
yeah,
that was the end of the conversation.
I'm not doing that. That's a good one. So you said Genevieve said that?
Teeny said that.
Teeny said that. You're right. Teeny did say that. All right, I'm not doing that. That's a good one. Um, I loved the stamp of threat. I thought that was pretty good. She's like, the stamp of threat is like hard to wash off or whatever.
Hmm.
Genevieve also said, I'm a little bit all over the place, which is kind of a funny. But
Yeah,
instead, I went with Caroline's quote, and I did threat now, shield later. I thought that
that's
was
a good one for
I
sure.
think that's a pretty
Hmm.
good Survivor philosophy. Thought it was a good confessional there from Caroline. Went with that. Now we go to who goes home next week. If there's two, I mean,
Ooh.
we could trade one apiece. I think it's just one, but we can do it as if there's two. Um,
Let's just do like we'll each pick a person, and
we'll
then
each pick a person. Let's
if
just do
they if
one.
they go one of the two, we'll count it.
And
If there is
if
two,
both of them go home, we both drink.
we both take. Yep.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well then, I am going to go. Who I'm going to go. Sam goes home next week. I'm going to take Sam. Who do you
Okay.
think?
I'm gonna go with Genevieve.
Genevieve. Yeah, it's
Yep.
that's the right call. It seems so obvious.
It seems like it's one of those two, but you never know. I mean, it could easily be like
Yeah.
something crazy, and I mean, Rachel's become such a big threat. They could turn on her, and
Yeah.
she could
Yeah.
go home with an idol and an advantage. That'd be
Yeah, no, it definitely looks
devastating.
like it's going to be some chaos. I think we still have a
Hmm.
lot of good season ahead of us. So, all right, cool. Well, we will be back for the next episode of Survivor 47. Stick with us. Thanks for being here. See you next time.